Hello and welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Kiki, Life, Love, and all that other shit. I am your host, Kiki Chanel, award-winning author, lifestyle blogger, and certified life coach. The overall theme for Kicking It with Kiki is to talk about life, love, and all the things in between. Today, I am joined with a special guest, and you guys are not new to the channel. I like to give my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. So, Miss Tiffany, thank you for coming to Kick It with me. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Tiffany McQuaid. I am, kind of an entrepreneur who sells real estate and owns a brokerage and a marketing company and a title company. And we're based here in beautiful, sunny, I'm slightly biased, Naples, Florida.
Nice, nice. That's a great resume. So, again, we're going to get into that, but I like to talk about life, love, and all the things in between. So, I ask you a question
Sure.
about life. How has life shaped the foundation of who you are as a businesswoman?
Ooh, life in general, or is there
Any
anything in
any
particular?
particular, yeah, any particular moment that stands out to you that comes to mind that has helped shape your life as a businesswoman?
Without a doubt. So I unfortunately lost my father when I was 10, and he had elected to take his life on Christmas Day. I was 10, my sister was 5 at the time. And, of course, through that huge life challenge, obstacle, hurdle, however you want to look at it, I look back on it now and I kind of became my mother's right arm. She was raising 2 girls. This was in the 80s. There
Mhm.
wasn't therapy. There wasn't, someone that you could pick up the phone and talk to necessarily. And it was at a time when there was a massive stigma around suicide. I mean, I recognize and it's very dynamic even today. People are not quite sure how to take that or handle that. But back then, I'm sure you can imagine it was even worse.
Yeah.
So, it kind of became, we were disconnected from the family. It was hard for the family to see us and not think about him. There was religious disassociation, fear of not understanding,
Mhm.
that. But also just, evolving through taking the most joyous holiday for a child, in your life that you look forward to, and learning to, over time, turn it into something entirely different. I mean, I look back on it now and think, boy, I'm so thankful because my life could have turned out very, very differently,
Mhm.
But I think over time, what I started to learn, and this is what has made my entrepreneurial journey more enduring, is, excuse me, sorry, is the fact that I learned at a very young age that, number one, I had the ability or the capability to bring joy to my mother in very easy, simple ways. She had the weight of the world on her shoulders, and I saw her so often, with tears streaming down her face and, overwhelming. And so she would come home from work. I knew that, if I washed the dishes or had the house, looking nice, or just made her, just smiled at her. She always said that my smile brought her joy, made dinner, that there were different little things that I could do that would emanate that ability for her to kind of turn her day around.
Mhm.
And I learned throughout the course of my life that, we have the incredible influence, not influencers per se, as we look at them today, based on social media, but we have the ability to influence the people that we encounter. and
Yes.
how they feel when they come around us or engage with us. And, that there is so much opportunity for us to energetically, without even realizing it, turn around someone else's day, whether it's just a simple act of kindness or it's just how you receive them.
Right.
Are you enthusiastic? Are you smiling? Do you have a frown on your face? Are you carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, which, we all are, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But we also have a choice. And that choice is, how are you going to show up? How are you going to project yourself to someone, especially people that you've never met
Hmm.
or encountered before? How do you want to be received? Not that we can control how people receive us in the moment, but what we can control is efforting, putting forth the effort that reception could be a really good one. Because when you think about the entrepreneurial journey, the people that we remember the most are, and dynamics are the ones that involved enthusiasm,
Yes.
right? When there was an enthusiastic energy on the other side, I'm not talking fake enthusiasm, but just genuine, authentic enthusiasm. Joy and enthusiasm go hand in hand, and that just goes out, and you're just putting so many great things out into the world. And so to circle back, I know I gave you the scenic tour to the end of that question, but enthusiastic energy is something, or enthusiasm is something that you can choose, and you can choose to present yourself both in how you're engaging with people, but also how you're approaching life. And when enthusiastic energy, pairs in, it's joy. It's
Eh,
joy and enthusiasm hand in hand, and your entrepreneurial journey will be entirely different. No matter the ups and downs, the bumps, whatever, there's always something to be enthusiastic about. So it's finding that.
I love that. I love everything that you said. And a lot of people don't know how to take adversity or certain dark situations to turn them into something light that can evolve business as well as personal life into something amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you
Oh,
sharing that.
thank you for asking the question. I've never been asked that question before. That was a great one.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, as talking about the entrepreneurial journey, how did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting. My brain functions in like 3D Technicolor. And it's the strangest thing. I'm not like a creative all the time. I'm one of those that balance creative with logic and business, like almost equally. But
Hmm.
when my brain has those days that I'm functioning in creative mode, I will create and spew things out like a ticker tape. It just has been kind of like a special gift that I've had, that I've just kind of allowed it to evolve over all the years. But it's kind of truly become my differentiator. And I think that we all have like little differentiating skills and talents and gifts,
Hmm.
and we just kind of need to zero in on those and hone in on those. But for me, I'm a creator by nature. And I think anyone on this journey is, you see a void, you desire to fill a void, you desire to do something different, you like to create something from nothing. That is like
Hmm.
my favorite thing in the world to do.
Hmm.
Give me a challenge and of something, to create something that does not currently exist in any platform. And
Right.
you want to talk about enthusiasm going through the roof. I love it.
Hmm.
So, that I think helps you get through the bumps in the entrepreneurial journey, but you need the bumps to truly appreciate the good and the great things that happen.
Absolutely. Can you share with the audience a memorable success story from your career?
Oh boy. Well, it's interesting. I've been blessed with many, and I think, well, we all have great things that happen on our journeys. And, I think it's one of those things that the bad stuff and the negative things that happen are easier to believe
Yeah.
than the good things.
Hmm.
We could accomplish a million amazing tasks and goals but I never take time to just like sit in them or to pat myself on the back or to say, good job, Tiff. I never do that because ultimately, and I probably should a little more, I just don't, because my brain's always on to the next thing. But,
Right.
I think that probably my biggest and a few of the things that I'm most proud of are all people centric, and that I have been so blessed to have the most amazing team, my core team. They have just been so loyal and have believed in me through every hurdle imaginable, of which there's been a ton. But they've also been with me through all the successes too.
Hmm.
So that I've encountered some amazing people like, Barbara Corcoran, and I just merged my company with Ryan Serhant, and just incredible people that you could only dream of having people like this fall into your life. It's a blessing and a gift, for
Yes.
sure.
Hmm.
And you just kind of think, if you didn't take risks, because all of those happened for me by taking risks.
Hmm.
If you don't take those, then you're not giving yourself those incredible opportunities, whether they're people related or product or, whatever. But you have to take the risks to get the rewards.
Absolutely. I love that because like you said, if you don't take the risk, you won't see or I know that there's a reward. So thank you
Yeah,
for your insight on that. And let's get into real estate a little bit.
sure.
With everything that's going on in the world and technology is taking over, so to speak,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you see technology transforming the real estate industry in the next decade?
Well, so technology, is always a catch 22 in a way. But, the one thing that I know for sure is that there's still the incredible power of connection. And no
Mhm.
matter what a robot or AI or any of those dynamics, the ability for a consumer to obtain information about a property or an area or what have you, a great real estate professional that knows their stuff, that takes time to constantly be educating themselves, that knows the contracts inside and out, that knows, in the area that you're looking at, what days are trash days, where families or children or people are that may enjoy pickleball the way you enjoy pickleball, or, it's those types of relationships and connections that will always keep real estate, moving forward. But in a great way, but it's going to be going forward, what value and what value proposition are you bringing to the table for a buyer or seller to choose you? I
Right.
think over the next 10 years, I would venture to say that the industry itself will compress from multiple perspectives. So I think we're going to see compression of numbers of agents getting licenses and, perhaps a little change in how the process that you go through to be licensed and or maintaining license. So I think that's going to be one thing. I think compression of transaction is going to be a real thing too, as technology, although we're pretty tech centric now, but I think timelines and things will start to get tightened even more in terms of, maybe going to contract and closing on a property. Ability to get things done is going to speed up
Hmm.
even more. I believe that as interest rates and things adjust, I think we're going to see a ton of first-time home buyers coming into the market, unlike anything we've ever seen, because I think there are so many sitting there. We're seeing the younger population living at home longer, right?
Hmm.
And perhaps, saving for a property. So I think there's going to be a big transition from that perspective. I also think that we're going to see a lot more situations where people, especially like in retirement years, are sharing housing. I think that that is going to definitely be something, more like Golden Girls style. I think you're going to start seeing some more of that too. We're already seeing that, but I
Mhm.
think in 10 years, that's going to evolve hugely.
Okay, nice. Nice. So, what advice would you give a woman or women entering
Mhm,
into the space of real estate
mhm.
for today?
So get new, coming in licensed new or already in the business.
Someone that's actually aspiring to become a real
Okay.
estate agent. Yeah.
Well, so number one, I think it's a incredible career. I've been doing it for 23 years and it was kind of my dream to be able to do so. So I feel so blessed to do it. There's huge differences between when I started then till now.
Mhm.
But for anyone stepping into it now, knowledge is going to be your power. Number one, over and above anything. And for those people who think, well, I'll do it part-time and dabble in it, and a career is not made in part-time in the real estate industry. It's
Right.
just not. So you're really, and especially going forward now with all the changes in the industry from the buyer's representation side, you have to be able to show your value now, which is a little different. It used to be, well, my brother's cousin's sister has her license and, we're going to look for properties and she could use a little extra money. So we're going to work with her. And, there was a lot of that going on from, a buyer's side, which I think when you're thinking about your most valuable asset or one of them, I think now going forward, because now the buyer's paying for the buyer's side representation, the seller
Mhm.
for the seller side, I think now going forward, what's going to be so very, very important is that you are choosing a professional to represent you on either side that is going to listen to what you're looking for, be the most knowledgeable in being able to help you achieve that, have crazy mad negotiation skills.
Mhm.
That's one thing that I would say, sharpen your negotiation skills for sure. Knowledge of contracts inside and out, like the back of your hand, and the exact same thing about the market inside and out, like the back of your hand. Know what's going on in your marketplace. And to me, I would zero in on one particular area or neighborhood or farm, which I've done for 23 years. I've marketed the community where I live and have been blessed to have market share all of those years. If someone is coming in now, I would definitely recommend doing that because you can manage expenses a little better, number one. But again, now with all the changes in the industry, everyone wants to work with the expert in that market. And if they're looking in a particular area or neighborhood, they want to know who's going to know exactly what I said earlier. What days are trash days? How do I play pickleball? How do I access? What are the fee structure? All of those things that a novice situation or someone blindly walking in to just show a house are not going to know. So really focus in on who you're going to be, where you're going to, meaning how are you going to show up? What is your intention? Where are you going to market yourself? And double down on that. And lastly, knowledge, 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 knowledge.
Absolutely. And you never can learn too much, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Right. So let's talk about the book. I
Oh,
love the name of this book,
huh?
How to Stand Out by Going All In. How did you come up with the name first and foremost?
Well, what's really interesting about that is we at our office, we always, when we were kind of starting the company, well, it'll be 13 years ago. When we were starting the company, we were looking for a tagline for McQuaid and Company, something, that we could kind of equate out to show that we were different, that we were unique. And, my creative team, we all kind of bounced around all sorts of ideas, and I'll never forget it. We were all in a group text, texting back and forth. And all of a sudden it was like, thinking of that, the nth degree, how people always say they're going the nth degree. So we switched it to the mth degree, that we real estate to the mth degree, since we started with them, right? So we kind of started playing with that. And then when the book, dialogue, started happening, and Bruce, my collaborator on the book, and we were kind of brainstorming it, we were breaking down the categories and the keys for the inside and for the inside. And it just kind of became a natural of evolution of what to do with it. We kind of played around with nth degree, and we had all sorts of things going. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, this is silly. Everything, it's about going all in,
All in.
so duh, nth degree. So yeah. We were really actually surprised that there wasn't already a book titled that. So yeah, we felt very
Yeah.
innovative.
I love it. I love it. I love the play of words.
Oh, I have so much fun with the N words. Oh, I play it
Yes.
all the time.
And let's talk about the importance of being able to stand out by going all in.
Yeah. Well, I think that is the most important thing ever, because I believe that people who authentically show up, meaning presenting themselves to the world or to the business or someone that they encounter or engage with authenticity, it I think we're in a society now where you're starting to recognize fake
Oh, yeah.
versus authentic,
Hmm.
and there's probably, a range there in between of where people fall. And, I kind of learned, well, I didn't kind of, I did learn through all my trials and tribulations in my life and the horrible things that happened to me, and I felt like for so long, and I remember even after my dad passed, for so long, I was embarrassed by it. I was disconnected, I was afraid to tell because nobody that I knew didn't have a dad,
Hmm.
let alone one that passed away. I had nobody to relate to.
Right.
And you kind of find yourself in various stages of life where you're kind of creating a safe space for yourself. You're a protective wrap, if you will, around your heart or your mind or your circumstance, just so you don't feel so alone or disconnected. And I think I went through a lot of my life not wanting to talk about it. So I wasn't like authentic to who I was. And I never want to say my story because I don't want to use it as a, it just sounds like I don't want to use it as something that you're, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? That you're kind of trying to play a martyr with.
Hmm.
That wasn't it. But, I had this weird epiphany in my 20s where I started to realize, well, wait a second. Why am I was in college, and in a sorority. And I remember people, there would be Parents' Day and stuff. And I finally, like one day, it was almost like a weird, like a clearing of inner energy where I just laid it out. I don't have a dad, I did. He, went through the whole dynamic. And that was incredibly freeing.
Hmm.
And, I didn't want people's sympathy or empathy for that matter. That isn't what I was looking for. I think what it did is it just transformed my vision and my ability to feel like people can still accept me despite or in spite of the fact that I'm missing someone that they all have, that makes you, like a circus sideshow,
Right.
really. That's kind of what it felt like when we were young, because we
Hmm.
were disconnected from the family. But then, I had other things happen to me throughout my life that I do speak of in the book. And, I think through the course of that, it just became, not that I'm out there sharing my story with everyone, I'm not, but I learned to release it and to forgive.
Yes.
Forgive my dad for what he did, although I wish, to this day that he were here, but I forgave him for that because I can't even imagine what was in his mind. I've forgiven all these dynamics that I've gone through, even on this entrepreneurial journey. And what it did was it's freed me up to not feel like all that intense weight. So it's allowed me to just be me,
Right.
as crazy or as quirky as I can be at times, or as brilliant as I choose to be when I choose to be that, or as quiet or silent as, sometimes I like, well, most nights, I'm an introvert at heart and I like to just be quiet. Or if I don't want to go meet people or go to a party, feeling authentically me to say, no, I'm sorry. Thank you for inviting me, but no, I just can't. And not feel like I have to do that stuff because I'm being authentic to me. And
Hmm.
so that's what I mean about going in, like listening to your inner voice, listening to your heart and your soul, and doing what it says, what your gut says, even if it's not the popular answer. That is
Absolutely.
going in.
Absolutely. I love it. So tell the audience, how can they get the book? Where is the book located?
Well, the book, actually, I have one right here. They can get it online wherever books are sold, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Amazon, anywhere like that. It's available paperback, hardcover, audiobook. And let's see, and also on my website at tiffanymcquaid.com.
And all of her information will be in the show notes, guys. So there's no excuse. Go get the book, learn about different things and strategies and circumstances and experiences that Tiffany shares in her book. And I know it's going to be amazing. I am definitely getting my copy. So thank you for telling us where to get it from. And I want to jump into your philosophy. When I saw that in your bio, I was like, we have to talk about that.
Oh,
Something great leads to something great.
yeah.
How does your philosophy influence the way you set your goals, set and pursue your goals when it comes to that?
Well, I'm one that is a believer in reaching for the stars always.
Mhm.
I think there's so many people, and I'm sure everyone out there can relate to this, that there are so many people out there just living in status quo, not wanting to ruffle feathers, not wanting to stir things up, whether it's their life or a circumstance. Just in general, just wanting to stay status quo. And I decided a long time ago that I just didn't want to be status quo. I didn't want to accept things as they were being presented to me or as they were in the moment. I wanted to know that everything that I was doing, I was striving to be a little bit better and better, or, creating something a little bigger or wider reach or more valuable in terms of action or reaction, the ability to change the world. Why try to change it for one when go for 100, go for 1,000, go for thousands. So I guess I've just never been a believer in that, in status quo. So I'm always kind of pushing it, which equates back to the nth degree or mth degree, however you look at it, just never wanted to be what was normal, customary, and what was expected.
Absolutely. I love that. So, what is something that you do every day to make sure that you stay conducive to that philosophy that you have, knowing that, something great leads to something great?
Yeah, well, I have like it's not a routine because I do change it up, in the morning sometimes, but I get up very early. I'm usually up by 4 a.m. because there is nothing that brings me more joy in the world than having quiet time before I feel like the rest of the world is up.
Mhm.
I enjoy it. I take my dog out first thing, have that first cup of coffee. And I usually will just kind of sit in my own mind, in silence and quiet. Sometimes I'll read something that inspires me or, maybe grounds me, aligns me spiritually, centers me, whatever that would be. I do jump in my pool almost every morning at around 5:30 in the morning. And I love it so much. I'm in Florida, so not everyone can do this. But
Right.
what I love about that is I jump in, it's dark out, you can see the stars in the sky, picture it. It's
Yeah.
black, you got the stars in the sky, and they're so bright. And you jump in the pool, and I swim what I call my laps of gratitude. And, every day I kind of change it up, and different topics or whatever maybe I have a need to focus on or desire to focus on for the day. And I just swim end to end until I just exhaust myself back and forth, just thinking of all the things that I'm grateful for. And I just kind of make these little outward lists. And there are some days where maybe I'm feeling a little heavy about something, and I use it as an opportunity to just release it, and just surrender it. And I swim and surrender it. And I'll tell you, that just recalibrates my brain every single day. It is the craziest thing.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of love, on the last question of the day,
Yes.
if you had to give your definition of love, what would it be and why?
Ah. Oh, to me, love is peaceful energy. And I feel like you can love so many things, animals, people, places, situations. Um, to me, it's wherever I find peace. And that ultimately always equates to something or somewhere that I love.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Tiffany, it has been amazing having you here today. Thank
Oh,
you for
thank
coming
you.
and kicking it with me. I tell everybody that each season gets even better, but you're in my top 5 episodes because your
Oh,
authenticity,
thanks.
you're so I don't know, it's the energy, the smile that you have,
Oh,
the way your eyes light up when you talk about your experience and things like that. So I just love that. So thank you for
oh.
going all in when you're here with me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was such a blessing, and I am really, really appreciative of your time. So fun.
Absolutely. And so before we get out of here, is there any words of encouragement or advice that you would like to leave the listeners with today?
Okay, so I will leave all the entrepreneurial listeners with this. This was single-handedly the best bit of advice I've ever received, and it was from Barbara Corcoran. And I remember I was going through, she's kind of had her thumb on the pulse of my business for over 20 years. And so this is a really good one. I was going through a really hard time. It was probably 10 years ago, maybe. And I remember she said to me this, Tiffany, ignore the naysayers on everything. Anything fresh and innovative makes them uncomfortable, and their intentional job is to clip your wings. And do you know how many times a week I think through that? Because we're in a crazy world right now. People, keyboard warriors, will comment not so great things on social media to people. The world's just all over the place right now. There's all these things happening. So just always remember, ignore the naysayers and just focus in and know that if they're saying something about you or your business or your product, it's because they're trying to clip your wings.
I love that. I love that. So thank you again for coming to kick it with me. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Kicking It with Kiki, Life, Love, and all that other shit. Until next time, make sure that you stay away from those naysayers. Speak life over yourself. Do what makes you happy. Love life and life. Live it to the fullest of your of your ability, and everything else will flow. So you guys be blessed and purple hugs.
Hmm.